Well, at the beginning of this season, we thought that this off day was going to be massive for the Blue Jays to push into a playoff spot. But instead, we're going to sit here and talk about injuries, I guess.
You are Locked On Blue Jays, your daily Toronto Blue Jays podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jays. Thank you for making Locked On Blue Jays your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
This episode is brought to you by Booking.com. The right stay can make you a fan of any city, even your baseball rivals. Book today on Booking.com, the official accommodation partner of Major League Baseball. Get the Booking.com app today. As always, I'm Braden Uwasco. He's Carter First. You can find us on Twitter, Braden5 Uwasco, Carter First 2, as well on Instagram and TikTok at Locked On Blue Jays. If you're new here on YouTube, make sure you hit that subscribe button. It really does help us out a ton. So make sure you guys do that. If you're listening anywhere else, make sure you head over to the YouTube, subscribe anyway, because we are going live on YouTube on Sunday, the final game, game 162. Just going to have some fun. We're going to talk some Blue Jays, snap it around a little bit, answer your guys' questions. You can come in, say how disappointed you are in the season. We'll take it all. We'll be live right from first pitch of that game. As well, a couple huge announcements here. We finally got the Locked On Blue Jays merch shop up and running. You can check that out at lockedonbluejays.myspreadshirt.com or shop, .com, and it's also in the link down below in the description, so make sure you guys click on that. As well, we have started a Discord where you guys can tell us exactly what you think. You can join that if you go down below, so a ton of places to reach out to us with your questions, comments, what you guys think, what you want to see. If you have anything you specifically want us to do a video on, make sure you can go to that Discord or drop it in the comments. Either one, join both, join all of them. We're trying to build a community here. Carter, with the amount of, just sort of plugs I did there, we still have a ton to talk about. There's a ton of injuries on the Blue Jays. We're going to talk about what we want to see going into the final series of the season. And then, of course, in the third segment, we're going to do, as always, our series preview, break down the series, who's pitching, who's not playing, who will be in, what are we looking for. Carter, that was a lot in about 2 minutes and 30 seconds, my guy. With the Discord up and running, everything, we're doing more to push sort of more content out to you guys. Carter, I don't know, man. How do you feel about us sort of moving into 90 different spaces here?
Yeah, we're continuing to expand, which is obviously awesome to see. This is our first time doing a major podcast, first time with a lot of these platforms. So it is a little bit of trial and error. Obviously, with the shop, we tried to get the shop out earlier. Did not go that well. We had a little bit of problems that we ran into, some copyright issues, stuff like that. Everything that is new to us. We are obviously working and getting better as we are getting through this. But we're excited to just have more opportunities to talk to the people about the Toronto Blue Jays. And where we're at right now, just with the Blue Jays media, with the Blue Jays team right now, with where we're at with the Toronto Blue Jays, we have a ton to talk about for the offseason. But as for like this season right now, since we're in season, we're trying to keep everything still sort of relevant to in season. But right now, with the in-season Toronto Blue Jays, not a lot to talk about for 2024, a ton to talk about for 2025. So we're in the last episode, we're on off-day episode here. Monday, we're going to be recapping, obviously, the Miami Marlins series. But after that, it's going to be into the offseason. Fortunately, we did not make the playoffs. If you guys didn't know, Toronto Blue Jays not making the playoffs in 2024. Breaking news from Locked On Blue Jays. But we have a ton of stuff that we do want to talk about. If you guys have any ideas, obviously we'll be accustomed to taking those as well, because we are talking about the Toronto Blue Jays every single day. Whether you are immersed in the Toronto Blue Jays content every single day, whether you watch every single Toronto Blue Jays game, or you're just a casual fan and you just turn on the Blue Jays games once in a while, it's nice to get different perspectives from everyone, especially the people that aren't as immersed in the Toronto Blue Jays content, because we do talk about this every single day. It's nice to know what the people that don't necessarily have the Blue Jays in their mainstream media want to know about the Toronto Blue Jays. So we got a bunch of logistical stuff out of the way there, kind of just a lot of rambling a little bit from the Locked On Blue Jays boys there. I guess we're going to get into some injuries here, keeping it in season right now. So, Braden, I don't know if you have the list. We can kind of work it out together. There's like a million Blue Jays that are injured this season. You go back to last season, we were very lucky. You look at this pitching staff, you look at the bullpen, not really any injuries throughout that entirely. Throughout the roster, you had the odd Kevin Kiermaier injury, you had the odd injury that was like a 10-day IL stint, but nothing too crazy. You go to this season, the Toronto Blue Jays might have used up all of their injury luck in 2023. Braden, I'll throw it over to you. Just kind of go over some of the injuries the Toronto Blue Jays have had this season.
Yeah, so let's go back to the start of the season, the injury that sort of wrecked Jordan Romano's season, right? This was a guy that we needed to be good, and obviously he came back from the injury from the preseason, started the season. Again, this is not confirmed, but obviously re-aggravated something and had to leave for the season, Carter. This is a guy that definitely decides games for you. And when a year when the bullpen has been so bad, Jordan Romano is a guy that this team will need for 2025. So I'm happy in a dead season, in the lost season, I'm happy that at least it happened now and not in a playoff push in 2025 or something like that. But Jordan Romano is a key piece that we're going to need moving forward. And so hopefully he can figure out these injury troubles and make sure he comes back ready and healthy for 2025.
Jordan Romano is going to be instrumental to the bullpen success. You're going to have a lot of new faces in this bullpen, but you're going to need those high leverage back end guys that have established themselves in the league. Right now, you look at Eric Swanson, who's starting to make his way back. Some people don't have full on confidence in him yet. I can't really fault him too much. This is a guy that I think they're going to be able to rely on next season. I'm pretty sure you're on the same boat. A lot of other Blue Jays fans are as well. Comment if you have different opinions than us. Obviously, we're definitely welcome to engaging in debates, as you guys have seen in the last couple of episodes. But yeah, you have him obviously out of the bullpen. Jordan Romano is a guy that, again, Blue Jays fans are very quick to forget how good this guy was over the last 3 seasons beyond this season. If you get Jordan Romano without injury troubles with spring training throughout the entire season, you're probably going to see the regular Jordan Romano that we have seen in 2021, 2022, 2023, and even slightly before that. So you said Jordan Romano is going to be a very big piece of this bullpen. This is a guy that has had a lot of rest. So for me, on the scale of, am I worried about this kind of lingering into next season or not? For Jordan Romano, it's got to be like a 1 out of 10. Not worried whatsoever. This guy should have had all the time in the world to rehab. And props to the Toronto Blue Jays on this one, actually shutting Jordan Romano down for the season, giving him that ability to not get injured again and rehab for 2025, unlike what they did with some other players on this team.
Yeah, well, let's get right into it. Bo Bichette, a guy that was injured earlier on, obviously wasn't competing at his highest, level, which we would have expected. Then the Blue Jays decide, you know what, with 10 games remaining, we're going to bring Bo Bichette back out onto the diamond to finish off 2024. And when they do that, he plays his first game. Everything looks good. Then they about to go into game 2. He's taking some ground balls, fractures his finger, and will now have to deal with that in the offseason, Carter. He should be good for 2025, the starting day, opening day, and preseason. But again, this was something that the Blue Jays completely mishandled. We've talked about it already before, but a complete mishandling of this situation with Bo Bichette. And again, I pray to God that he's fine and everything works out and there's no issues. But this is something that can come back and bite a team in going, trying to move on and trying to push the envelope into next season and rebound. Without Bo Bichette, there is not a ton of rebound here. There's going to have to be a lot done in the offseason if it comes down to having to replace Bo Bichette because of a dumb injury that the Blue Jays let happen.
See, this shouldn't matter for 2025. In retrospect, he fractured his middle finger. As soon as you hear pins, though, you hear stuff like that, starts to make you freak out a little bit. And when we look at Bo Bichette and his initial injury, it's supposed to be a 10-day IL thing, kept getting extended. And here we are, 60 games without Bo Bichette, deciding to bring him back 15 left to go. And then just an unfortunate injury, obviously not the same thing, but it's just kind of the way the Bo Bichette seasons went. And we commented on that a ton. Bo Bichette, clearly it was not the year of Bo Bichette in 2024. For me and you, we both said probably should have shut him down, cut your losses. Is Bo Bichette, are you going to be more impressed with Bo Bichette if he even has a good 2 weeks to end off the season? It's probably not going to move the needle too much. You're not benefiting in many ways from playing Bo Bichette to end off these last 2 weeks. You didn't even get him to play these last 2 weeks, obviously with that injury. Again, you're not going to foresee an injury happening, especially something that's completely different. But what we said on this podcast, where the Blue Jays were at on their season, didn't really make a lot of sense for Bo Bichette to return to this lineup. But some other starters in this lineup that are also injured is Dalton Varsho. And this is one that was, again, supposed to be kind of like a 10-day IL stint, but then they did decide that they were going to undergo surgery on his right rotator cuff. So obviously that is a big surgery, especially for a baseball player. Your shoulder mobility and recovery is instrumental to your success in the MLB, believe it or not. You do throw a lot of things in the MLB, especially if you're Dalton Varsho. But this guy is a guy that, again, he's so good defensively. You need this guy on your team. You look at the WAR for the Toronto Blue Jays, wins above replacement, second best on the Toronto Blue Jays, holds his value right there. Again, this is a very long recovery period. This should mean that Dalton Varsho has a long time to rest and recover until spring training and offseason baseball activities do partake again. But this guy has, 4 or 5 months. Shouldn't be a problem. But you have these major surgeries. Setbacks do happen. Shouldn't be a problem next season, but something you got to keep an eye out for this offseason of 2024.
Yeah, man. And this is exactly, this is what the probably the biggest fear in all of Blue Jays, land is that a lot of guys get injured right at the end of the season and then, potentially mess up their 2025 start. And that's exactly what happened last season. Going in the offseason, a lot of guys had injuries, preseason injuries, and that's what hurt us early. And so now we're looking ahead to 2025 and praying to God that doesn't happen again. That's just not a position that they want to be in, but it's the position they are in. Sometimes from the Blue Jays management's decisions, sometimes just stuff that happens. And again, we said maybe you don't play all your big time starters in the last 10 games of the season, but they sort of, decided to go another way. A couple other injuries as well. Carter, obviously. Alek Manoah is a big one, but again, should be back ready to go for 2025, no problem. Besides, the first, little bit of the season, but as a whole, 2025 should be a solid return for Alek Manoah, back to his usual self. Will be out for a couple weeks, maybe a month, I believe is what they were talking about. Again, haven't released a full timeline on him, but he should be back for the majority of 2025.
Yeah, it usually takes about a year to recover from these surgeries. So Alek Manoah did have his injury on May 29th was the day that he revealed that his elbow felt a little pinched. So obviously didn't have surgery later on until June, but probably going to miss all of May. Probably the first month he will be out, and then there will be a little bit of a ramp-up period. So look to see Alek Manoah probably mid-June, somewhere in there. Again, things can happen. He could have a enhanced recovery period where he comes back a little bit earlier, or things can get delayed. But when you're looking at injuries and you're looking at ones that you're worried about, again, it's a very big injury. So in that, for seriousness in the surgery that he's having is a very major surgery. But when you're looking at it from a Toronto Blue Jays standpoint and who they have to go on this roster for 2025, when you look at this injury, this is probably the one you're most prepared for on your staff. You never want to be prepared for an injury, but you look at the starting rotation, you probably have 5 starters that could go for 2025 right now. Then obviously being Bowden Francis, Yariel Rodriguez, Chris Bassett, Kevin Gausman, and Jose Barrios. So you are well equipped to at least have a little bit of time where you won't necessarily need Alek Manoah. But again, injuries happen. Obviously, things do happen. You could have some performances dip. You want to be accounted for the unknown. So it's very nice to have pitching depth on any team to have in AAA and AA, you name it. You never are going to have enough pitching. So for the Blue Jays to go out there and maybe get a lower leverage rotation guy, a 4th or 5th starting rotation guy, just someone that can provide them depth, especially for the start of the season, that's probably going to be something the Blue Jays are looking into. Other than that, we got Will Wagner on the IL as well. That's a left knee surgery. Should be back for 2025. Sort of the same thing. Big surgery, but a very long time to recover. Should be ready to go. And then some other just prospects, pitching injury, stuff like that. Ricky Tiedemann, obviously out with Tommy John surgery. That's a big one. That's a guy that you want to get innings. He's a young prospect. And that's been the flaw of Ricky Tiedemann. He's just never healthy. And you need this guy to pitch innings. He just doesn't throw innings. And now you won't see Ricky Tiedemann, unfortunately, probably until 2026. So that's a huge setback for a prospect. That is a very unfortunate one for the Toronto Blue Jays. Brandon Barriera is another one. Same thing. Tommy John surgery, just very unfortunate as well. And for some reason, it's the year of Tommy John for the MLB, honestly, but for the Toronto Blue Jays as well. So you go into the pitching prospects. You got Chad Dallas, Nolan Perry, and Carson Pierce. All of them undergoing Tommy John surgeries earlier this month as well. Chad Dallas, probably the one that's closest to the MLB, maybe would be a guy that you do see in 2025, but again, would be a lower leverage reliever. But just crazy, even with the MLB, just how many Tommy John surgeries there has been over the season.
And I talked about this, right? This is something that I, earlier on, I wanted to cover a little bit heavier. Didn't end up doing it. I wanted to get, talk to some professionals and see, why is this happening? I think we all know it because the pitchers are trying to ramp up velocity, that this is something that can happen. I know Chris Bassett has talked about it a ton as well. These are becoming very serious injuries for a lot of guys, and this is a league-wide issue. Is there a fix to this issue? Probably not one incoming. because guys are continually going to try to push velocity instead of, where it used to be when a lot of guys were looking for stuff, right? They were looking for their alternate pitches, and that was how they were beating guys. Now they just want to go over and blow pitches by everybody. So it's a different time in the MLB, and eventually I think that these injuries will come back and sort of bring everybody back down to earth when enough guys do start getting injured. I think this year was the start of that. But eventually it's going to be less, teams aren't going to take as many risks on guys that can just throw heat. They're going to end up starting to have to look at guys with more, better stuff, because you can't field guys that are just going to get injured every 3 months.
There was a proposal actually to try to limit this Tommy John, these injuries, but I think this something that I'm going to save for the second segment, as we have been going on for a little bit. So we do have some stuff that we do want to get to you guys as well. Some more injury talk, some more Toronto Blue Jays talk, some players playing winter ball as well. A lot more things that we want to get to, but we are just going to take a short break. We'll be right back to you guys with all that stuff after this.
Today's episode brought to you by Robinhood. With Robinhood Gold, you don't need a silver spoon to eat up financial favors of the 1%. Robinhood Gold allows others to get the rates and perks usually reserved for the high society. Now, the resourceful individual with Robinhood Gold can earn the very liberal rate of 4.5% APY on uninvested cash, receive unlimited 1% deposit bonuses, and be rewarded with a handsome 3% retirement boost on an IRA account. Robinhood Gold provides the privileges of high net worth for any net worth. These generous benefits are now available for only $5 a month. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. Sign up at robinhood.com/gold. Terms apply for product specific disclosures. Visit robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risk. Rates may change. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold LLC. So, Carter, just a few things here to go over in this segment. We want to talk about what we want to see out of this last series. I know you want to talk a little bit of winter ball, but before we do all of that, Carter, you were sort of bringing up a case, just sort of what's going on with this Tommy John, and I know exactly what you're talking about. But throw the idea out there that was proposed, and then maybe we'll have a little chat about the Tommy John.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that obviously are opposed to this. I think the majority are opposed to this, but this is an interesting talking point. So like you said, a lot of pitchers right now, whether it's a starter, whether it's a reliever, everyone is selling out for velocity. Everyone wants to throw the baseball harder. Obviously, if you throw a harder baseball, that gives you more of an opportunity to have misses. It's harder to react to something coming faster, obviously, than it is to something coming slower. So with everyone chasing velocity, the starting pitching role is kind of having this, it's starting to fluctuate a little bit. It's not holding as much importance as it used to. So you used to have these starting pitchers that would go 6-7 innings, and now you have guys, you can have a starting pitcher go out there and throw 4 to 5 innings, and you have bullpen arms, many of them are able to go 2 innings. So the starting pitching and the emphasis on starting pitching isn't as important as it once used to be. So even these starting pitchers are selling out for velocity. You got guys like, again, I wouldn't say Paul Skeens is selling out for velocity, but he's throwing 100 miles an hour fairly consistently. So the goal to kind of just retroact this and to encourage people to go more for length and focus more on length of a game and just throwing more pitches rather than on that velocity. And it's a minimum mandatory of pitches, and then also innings pitched. So it's more so the innings pitched. Their proposal is that a starting pitcher would have to go 6 innings. And again, there are some different things on this. There's like run values for the other team scoring a lot of runs. That can be something that switches up. If pitch count, if the pitcher is over 100 pitches, again, they don't want pitchers to get injured, so that'd be another thing. You can take out a pitcher if they haven't reached that 6 innings pitch mark, but they have thrown 100 pitches. So that's sort of the idea, is that make it mandatory for these starting pitchers to throw 6 innings, to more so focus on their command, control, and just their longevity rather than just selling out for the velocity. So, Braden, I'll throw it over to you. Just overall reactions to that take.
Yeah, Carter. I mean, there's a lot to go into here. I pitched growing up. I know, as much as I sort of said, you want to stay away from injuries. You want to get back to being able for guys to throw stuff instead of just velocity. And I know my argument before seemed like I would be before this change. I think this would be a bad look on Major League Baseball. I think this makes games more boring because you have the same pitcher in all the time. Teams use less bullpen arms. It makes the game less exciting. It is fun to go out there and see guys throwing hard. And And I think it just slows the game down entirely in the sense of, when a guy goes out and just is trying to eat innings, it's going to change the game of baseball. This is, again, contradicting myself a little bit here, but this was sort of my argument when it was coming to the pitch clock as well. It's changing the traditional game of baseball. And don't get me wrong, I think there needs to be some changes. I think the pitch clock was a great idea. I think the balls and strike challenges for the strike zone that they used in AAA, I think that's a good system that could be brought in. This seems like too much control from the league. I think that this still has to be I always think of baseball a little bit like chess, right? It's the decisions made in certain points. That's how you end up winning, right? It's your decisions that affect the game. And when you take this away, it takes out the decision-making part of the manager, of the pitcher, of the catcher, all of this. It completely changes the game. So I am completely against these stipulations for this rule, Carter.
See, I do understand like where they are coming from this, because you have a starting pitcher go 6 innings. A lot of these relievers cop outs are they just throw hard. So that's why you see what the Toronto Blue Jays are doing right now. They're just kind of getting the guys that have good stuff, that throw hard, seeing what sticks right now. Because if you have your starter go right now, a lot of these starters are going 4 or 5 innings even. You can use 5 bullpen arms in a game, and that means there is a lot more of an emphasis on having a bullpen because you have all these arms that can go in a game. If you make a starter go 6 innings, and again, they have to be effective, obviously, right? If you give up a million runs, it goes back to the same old. But if you have these hard throwers, you probably only, if they're going 6 innings, you really only need 3 bullpen arms in that sense, right? And again, so it's less of an emphasis on relievers, more of an emphasis on starting pitchers. But for me, I can't get behind just being forced to go 6 innings.
Yeah.
Again, there's so many different situations in a game of baseball. Maybe it's a 2-1 ball game and you got a bad matchup in the 6th inning. You want to get a reliever in there. It's not necessarily about a pitch count thing, how a guy's doing, just like the matchup better. In this sense, it takes a lot of the strategy out of the game of baseball, and I don't love that as much. So for me, I'm still a little bit undecided on this. I don't hate some of the stuff proposed from these 6 innings. I just think it's a very hard rule to enforce. I think it does change the game of baseball in a huge way, which I don't necessarily like. And I just don't like the commitment of having to throw a guy for 6 innings. I like you said, it keeps the game more interesting when you have a bunch of different guys go throw out there. You'll have a Ryan Yarbrough go out there, and then you can have Jordan Romano go out there and throw 99. So it's kind of just, when you have you have these guys with these starters go 6 innings, it takes away the opportunity for guys like Ryan Yarbrough to even have a role. What would Ryan Yarbrough's role be if the starter is going to go 6 innings anyway? I guess it would be if your starter blows up, but you're not using these long relief guys as long either. So again, this completely changes the game of baseball. I would say right now I'm on the fence of don't change anything, but I think if, again, this would have to be a completely structured and laid out project. You have to, for me, show me exactly what you want to do. But right now I'm saying, no, I do not want to switch.
Yeah, and the other part of this is I think it takes a little bit away from the game of the quirkiness of baseball, right? When you have teams sometimes and go throw I can't remember what they call it, where it's, the guy goes in for 1 inning or whatever, and then, you throw Ryan Yarbrough for 4, then you throw whoever.
Yeah, you throw an opener.
Yeah, an opener, thank you. Or you have, a guy like Yariel Rodriguez, if you use him out of the pen, right? The guy that you want there in case you need somebody to go 3-4 innings. The Trevor Richards role from last year. I mean, that all goes away with a rule like this. And like I said, it takes away from the strategy and the quirkiness of the game of baseball. I can't get on board with that.
Well, again, what if you have an injury where, again, you, instead of having a bullpen day where you can kind of get away with doing a bullpen day for 2, 3, 4 games, well, you can figure out your starting rotation spot. You're forced to pull up a guy from AAA, whether he's ready or he's not. So again, It forces your hand a lot in these situations. So again, I don't hate the idea necessarily. I think this is something they can work on. But from what I see right now, from what I have read about this idea, definitely a lot of quirks and issues they're going to have to work out.
Yeah, Carter. You know what? We're sort of running out of time. I know you wanted to get into winter ball, so I don't know if you want to take a break here, but we still got a series preview to do. So do you want to just hop into the winter ball stuff right now? Give that a little talk about that.
Yeah, we'll quickly go over it. So if you look at this Toronto Blue Jays roster in 2024, you look at how this Toronto Blue Jays roster performed for, other than honestly Vladimir Guerrero Jr., for the first half of the season. I would advise everyone to play winter ball. I think all of them could probably benefit from more at-bats. But usually the winter ball, it usually happens in the Dominican, is where some of these prospects, some of these more unproven guys just go to get more playing time. That's what we say with, for example, Ricky Tiedemann in this podcast. I said Ricky Tiedemann needs innings. If Ricky Tiedemann was healthy, wouldn't be the worst idea for him to go play winter ball, get more innings, and just pitch against more high-level talent. So we got a few players from the Toronto Blue Jays going to winter ball, and this isn't something that the MLB team can force any of the players to go to. They can't say, for example, Alejandro Kirk, we don't like what you did in the first half of the season. You got to go play winter ball. It has to be the player making the decision that they, for themselves, want to go wherever they end up going and play in a winter ball league. So the 3 Toronto Blue Jays that are going as of right now to play winter ball are Luis De Los Santos, not really a needle mover too much there. You got Stuart Baroa, and for me, this is the big one, is Leo Jimenez. Leo Jimenez, out of these 3, is the guy with the most upside, the guy that we've seen the most for the Toronto Blue Jays, and I think he does have a decent amount of upside. You see what Leo Jimenez is doing with his barrel percentage, with what he's doing with his doubles. He has a decent amount of doubles for his small amount of service time in the MLB right now. So if Leo Jimenez, again, young player, if he can continue, he's a very good fielder. If he can continue to just work on that bat-to-ball skills, maybe get a little bit more power, try to get the power numbers up. If he can be a 20-ish home run hitter, play good defense, and get on base at even like a 300 clip, I'd be okay with that. Leo Jimenez could be a utility player for this team, could be a guy that comes even up from AAA halfway through the season. You have injury, stuff like that, and can make a difference for this team. So I think it's a very good move by Leo Jimenez to be playing winter ball for this season just to get more reps.
Yeah, Carter, do I always necessarily agree with winter ball? No, not 100%. But for a guy like Leo Jimenez, I think it is a good move. I think he's a guy that needs to get at-bats and needs consistent at-bats to improve his game. So I think this is a perfect situation for him. Now, if you're telling me a guy like Dalton Varsho or Alejandro Kirk need to go or decide to go, I would question things very heavily here. Because at some point, you've been playing all year. You need that off season to just recharge. Sometimes you just got to take your mind off the game a little bit and get out of it for a bit. And so if it was a guy like that, I'd have a lot more questions. But I think that this is a perfect situation for Leo Jimenez to really dig down, figure out his game, find at-bats, and really work through some things in the offseason.
Yeah, you don't want to see Vladdy go play winter ball. That just wouldn't make any sense. You don't want to see Kevin Gausman go play winter ball. Just again, and this is more so for the guys that haven't gotten the playing time or just unproven and want to work on what they're doing. More so for the younger guys. So if a guy like, I don't know, for example, Joey Lopervito more so wanted to go play winter ball, that's probably something that me and you and the Toronto Blue Jays fans would more so welcome than a more experienced guy playing baseball. And again, it's you got to know this. These guys are professionals. They know their bodies better than anyone. If you're 30 years old, really no reason to go play winter ball. If you're 22 years old and you can handle it, probably a fair reason to go play winter ball. So for me, I got one more last question for you to ask. I can name 3 players. Do you think there's just name one more player from the Toronto Blue Jays, whether starter, reliever, position player, you name it, whatever, that could benefit from winter ball this offseason?
Yariel Rodriguez. And that might be a little bit contradictory, but a guy that didn't have a season last year, didn't play baseball. He's a guy that could afford to could look to get more innings, right? And not against major league talent. This is his sort of I would think would be his opportunity to redial in, try to get back, get to where he needs to be for 2025 so that he can be a big contributor to this team. And don't get me wrong, I think he will get the innings with the Toronto Blue Jays if it's out of the bullpen or in AAA. But I think that he's one guy that could really benefit from a couple more innings for sure.
I see what you're getting at, but I want to go against you on that one because I think the problem with Yariel Rodriguez right now is like you said, he didn't play baseball in 2023 whatsoever. So the innings is the problem for Yariel Rodriguez right now. I think you've seen enough from him that you can tell that he can be productive at the MLB level. It's just you don't want to throw this guy and you don't want him to have the same injuries as some of all these other pitchers on the Toronto Blue Jays have had. So this guy definitely would benefit from more playing time. If he could, again, it would have to be like a very small role where he's coming out of like the bullpen or making maybe like 3 inning starts. I think with the Yariel, you want to break for Yariel Rodriguez. I'm really worried about this guy's innings, but I do see how he can benefit from, again, maybe getting that confidence up a little bit and playing some winter ball. But for me, I can't believe you didn't go this direction. I think there's a very obvious candidate for who should play winter ball on the Toronto Blue Jays, and it's your boy. It's Davis Schneider. I think for me, Davis Schneider, it's more of a confidence thing. You're starting to see him getting that confidence back a little bit at the end of the season. I think this guy can go play winter ball, go rake, hit 330 or whatever it is, probably hit 30 home runs and come back into spring training after playing an entire offseason of winter ball and just come back like he's never even left and be an effective player for the Toronto Blue Jays in 2025.
I see what you're saying, and I understand your point. And this is a guy that when you posed this question, ran through my mind. But at the end of the day, I talk about some guys that need to take a step back from baseball in the offseason. baseball's such a huge mentality thing, and you talk about confidence, and we always talk about confidence. Sometimes for a guy, the best way for them to redial in is to go, get out of baseball for a while. Yes, you're still going to be around it, of course. These are major league players, but take a step away. Look what happened when Davis Schneider came into the start of this season. He was absolutely electric after, not playing or having the offseason. This is a guy that needs the offseason to just clear his head. I think get out of it. The media is so heavy on him right now, too. If he went down to play winter ball, there would be people, and probably us included, keeping track of how he's doing in every single winter ball outing to see how he does. And then if it's not going well, he's a guy that I think could be damaged from winter ball, when I think he's more so of a guy that just needs to clear his head and get away from baseball for a little while.
Yeah, I don't hate that take. Yeah, if things go bad for David Schneider in winter ball, it's a tough upbringing back for the 2025 season. So with David Schneider, you're right. It's been very inconsistent, to say the least. I think that you're right. He definitely can benefit from taking a step back. But again, it depends. If you look at the other side of the sword, if David Schneider goes down to AAA ball or AAA ball, winter ball, and rakes and gets that confidence back, again, I can very easily see you being flipped on the other side and being like, wow, why didn't David Schneider just go to winter ball every offseason if he's going to hit like this when he comes back to the Toronto Blue Jays? So again, is winter ball going to be this magical fix for every single player that goes there? No, you got to be good at baseball. It really is specific to which player your player needs, where you are in your career, a bunch of different little things that can go into this problem that the Toronto Blue Jays have. But it is interesting to see which players do opt in, which don't opt in. You can kind of tell which players really love baseball. Again, I'm not going to say the players that opted out don't love baseball, but you can tell that if you're playing baseball, 250 days of the year, you probably like baseball a little bit. But saying that, we do have a series to preview, the last one of the year. God, this would have been fun if we were in the playoffs, or even at least in the hunt for the playoffs, because the Miami Marlins at the end of the year is almost my, it's my dream. The only thing better is the Charlotte White Sox. But mind you, just coming off a sweep against the Los Angeles Angels, they really don't want to set the bad side of history and get 121. But saying that, we got a series preview. Well, yeah, I got to come at you with a short break, and we'll preview that series coming up.
Today's episode brought to you by Booking.com. Explore those U.S. cities you've always secretly wanted to learn more about, other baseball cities. Maybe it's time to taste test your baseball competition stadium cuisine. Luckily on Booking.com, you can find the stadium stay that's just right for you. With Booking.com's wide variety of choices across the U.S., you can go incognito to all your baseball rivals' cities. I always talk about it. If we're going to New York, if we're going to Toronto, if we're going to Minneapolis, it seems like we've been everywhere this season. Booking.com is the best place to go, in my opinion. It makes your planning the trip so much easier. And that's why I love Booking.com. But Booking.com delivers the exact right U.S. stay for you. Booking.com can help you book a stay that's close to your home teams or rivals' stadiums. Booking.com, booking.yeah.
Today's episode is sponsored by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the largest daily fantasy sports platform in North America. They are the easiest and most exciting way to play fantasy sports because it's just you against the numbers. Instead of betting against thousands of other players, including pros and sharks, you can pick more than or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. So last series of the Toronto Blue Jays season, we might as well take some interesting flyers here. So obviously, like I've been saying on this podcast for honestly the last half of the season, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. more thans. Any single thing you get Vladimir Guerrero Jr. more than on, probably should hammer that. One thing I am going to hammer, though, just for the fun of it, is I got Alejandro Kirk more than bases as well. I got this at 2. I want Alejandro Kirk to have a big day on this Friday game, so I'm hoping that can cash for me. I encourage you guys to take some flyers, have some fun with this Prize Picks for the last couple picks for the end of the season. Only 3 games left, so try to make some good money on a flyer for this over this weekend. You can download the app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB for first deposit matchup to $100. That's code LOCKEDONMLB for first deposit matchup to $100. Prize Picks, run your game.
So, Carter, I mean, we're going to get into this series preview. It's not going to be crazy. I mean, it's the last series of the season. But in saying that, a couple quick things here for you guys. Number one, make sure you go check out the Locked On Blue Jays shop. I think here, I'll give you the exact what it's called here. LockedOnBlueJays.myspreadshop.com. It's also in the description down below. Make sure you guys check that out, as well as the Discord. We just created a new Discord. Make sure you guys all hop on that so you can chat with us about your Toronto Blue Jays stuff any time of day. And you don't have to come back to the video and keep leaving comments, but we do appreciate the comments. If it's something specifically related to this video, make sure you drop the comment. We do really appreciate it.
Carter, honestly, do it on both. If you want to make sure we see it, do it on everything that you can. Do it on Instagram, do it on our TikTok, do it everywhere. We'll make sure to get that to you if it's on. Honestly, you probably only need to do one, but for sure do it if you do it on multiple platforms. But Braden, you do have the last series preview of the year, so I'll throw it right back over to you.
Got to make this one special. All right. Friday, Toronto Blue Jays are pitching Jose Barrios, and then he's going against Adam Aller. Okay. Saturday, the Blue Jays pitching Yariel Rodriguez. There has been not a pitcher set yet for the Marlins on that game. And the Sunday game, the big one, 162, Mr. Chris Bassett is scheduled to pitch against Ryan Weathers. How exciting a matchup, Carter.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun weekend. Again, 3 games left for the Toronto Blue Jays. Just enjoy it while it's on. It's your last weekend of Blue Jays baseball. If you're in Toronto, I'd encourage you to try to head over to a game if you can. But other than that, not much from us. Braden, you got anything you want to see from this weekend? I got one. I know I want Vlad to get 200 hits. I know we've talked about that. He's at 197. I'll throw it back over to you.
For me, the one thing I want to see on the weekend is every Locked On Blue Jays listener to join the live stream at opening pitch of Sunday, the final game of the season, 162. We'll be live right from first pitch on YouTube. Make sure you check that out. Join in. We're going to be having a blast. We got a busy Sunday. Sunday, we are live. Then we're going to record the episode on Monday to put out for you guys. Then we got to run back to Beausejour for a beer league hockey game that we obviously can't miss because me and Carter are so important to that team. And then shout out my brother. It'll be his birthday. So, shout out to him. He's 21. So the big 2-1, we're going for, we're going to go back to town, have some drinks, some beers, whatever else, and have a good time. And then get ready because it's the Blue Jays offseason and it is going to be a hectic one for us, Carter.
Yeah, we're going to have to strap in. Like we said, a lot to talk about for this offseason. Hopefully a lot to get excited about. We're going to have to see how the offseason transpires. Hopefully Ross Atkins can actually make it through a few free agency moves. But it's going to be a long time until we get that. Unfortunately for us, we're going to be watching from the couch on some other playoff teams that just wishing that we could have been in their situations. Eventually, we're probably going to have to pick a team that's in the playoffs actually for us to root for, but we'll save that for maybe our Monday or Tuesday episode. Just want to say thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for sticking around in the dog days of this Toronto Blue Jays season. If you've made it to this point, congratulations. I definitely applaud you guys. Definitely not the easiest season to watch as a Toronto Blue Jays fan, but we have noticed that about 67% of you guys are not subscribed. If you guys are tuning into every single episode, we do appreciate it, but it helps us out a ton if you do subscribe, and it keeps our videos at the top of your page as well, so you won't miss any of our podcasts. But Braden, that's all I got pretty much. Just enjoy your weekend, be safe, and just maybe have a beer for the Toronto Blue Jays.